Is this thing on? Looks like it is. A few weeks or possibly months ago, I did a video in which I read every single day for an entire week. As part of that, I was actually reading before bed, and doing so got me thinking, is doing this actually helping me sleep better? I've heard several times in the past that if you read before bed, it's going to help you sleep. I've also heard several times, as I'm sure that you have as well, that if you look at a screen before bed, it's going to make sleeping more difficult. So as part of that experiment that I did, in which I read every single day for a week, I also took the time to record whether or not I was sleeping a little bit better just because I had been reading prior to trying to fall asleep. And in this video, I will be talking about my experience with all of that. If you want to watch the original video in which I documented my process of reading every single day for a week, you can go ahead and click up here, but this is going to be specifically about whether or not reading before bed helped me sleep and whether or not I think it could help you sleep as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. If you don't know, first of all, I am TL Painter, and this is my channel where I talk about books and book-related things. I currently work an overnight job, so sleep is a very important part of my life that I don't really get to experience as often as I would like to. Sleep is a pretty challenging thing to accomplish when you work an overnight schedule, especially when you frequently end up getting overtime because things just kind of run a little bit late at your job. So naturally, I'm always looking for ways to make sleeping a little bit easier on me without, of course, just straight up knocking myself out.
The spray! Ah!
Oops. All out.
Well, use the forget-me stick.
Oh, right.
I have to sleep during the day while the sun is up, so I use things like a sleep mask and white noise in order to help me sleep. There is plenty of evidence to show that looking at your phone before you go to bed or looking at a laptop, anything of that nature is going to make sleeping more challenging and less restful than it otherwise could be. I'll go ahead and put a source for that in the description as well, but there are plenty of sources out there, and if you do a quick Google search, you will find all sorts of studies that show that this is the case. Now, there are many reasons for this, anywhere from the blue light reducing your melatonin levels to the way that your emotions react to certain things that you may see while you're looking at your phone. If something makes you extremely happy or something makes you extremely upset, you're going to have a hard time falling asleep after having looked at it, and that's kind of the range of emotions that we experience when we look at social media. A lot of happiness and then a lot of upset, but regardless of which of those extremes it is, it's going to make it harder for you to fall asleep and get a restful sleep. So screen time just generally isn't a very good idea before bed. I try to put my phone on my stand in silent mode a little farther away from me than where I'm sleeping so that it's just out of reach. That way, even if I do feel tempted to look at my phone, it's so far out of reach and I am so incredibly lazy that I just won't go and grab it. I think that we can all agree, even if we don't all do this, because I know I am guilty of looking at my phone before bed, we shouldn't be looking at our screens before bedtime. I'm actually going to extend this to e-readers as well. Now, I do love my Kindle Paperwhite. I really enjoy using it. It's a really efficient way to have my books be portable, especially large, more chunky books, and I like it, but I don't think that it's a good idea for nighttime or for me to read before bed. So I try to keep it as a daytime activity. I'll read on my e-reader while I'm out somewhere or while I am not about to try to go to sleep. Now, the Paperwhite at least has little to no blue light in it, which is great and it definitely helps, but it's still not quite as good for you as just reading on paper because you are still staring at a screen and you are still going to be reducing your melatonin levels, at least to some degree, based on the studies that I read. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but every study that I read seemed to indicate that even devices that have a little bit of blue light as opposed to a significant amount, like most screens, are still going to be detrimental to your sleep, so it's best to just avoid those. So let's talk about the actual act of reading before bed and what it can do for you. This is going to be a mix of things that I researched and my own anecdotal experiences. The first point I want to bring up is a little bit obvious, but it's one that I didn't really pick up on when I was first doing this, and that is that if I am reading a book before bed, I am not looking at a screen before bed. I'm not somebody who's really easily able to move between those two activities, reading a book and then scrolling through my phone. So when I'm reading before bed, I'm only reading that book. I'm not looking at my phone, I'm not looking at a computer, not looking at the TV, whatever the case may be, I'm only looking at that book. And that is keeping me from looking at my screens, which is an important part of trying to get a good night's rest, as I just discussed. So if you are somebody who finds yourself constantly distracted by looking at your screens, having a different activity that you do as part of your bedtime ritual, like reading a book, will help you develop the habit of not looking at screens right before you try to go to sleep. Now, this next point I derived from a study that was conducted in 2021, and it is about reading actually improving the quality of the sleep that you experience. The study involved 500 participants. Some of these participants read before bed and some of them didn't. Now, half of the people who read before bed reported that they felt they got a better quality of sleep, while about a quarter of the people who didn't read before bed reported the same. Now, I know that these aren't some staggering numbers that are just completely shocking and revolutionary, but they are significant, and I don't think they're something that can be ignored. And I can also report anecdotally that I find myself getting a more restful sleep if I read before bed as opposed to not reading before bed, or worse, looking at a screen before bedtime. So reading before bed could potentially improve your sleep, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's a guarantee and you're going to get the best sleep of your life if you just happen to read before bed, especially if you're reading a horror book, because then you may get the worst sleep of your life.
If you even sleep at all.
Another interesting point that I want to bring up, and this is also going to be anecdotal, is that it doesn't take me nearly as long to fall asleep if I read before bed. Often 20 to 30 minutes into my reading, I feel myself beginning to drift off. My eyelids start to feel heavy and I'm having a hard time focusing on the page. I close the book and before I know it, I'm asleep. Now contrast that with the fact that if I'm not reading before bed, I'm often staring at the ceiling for over an hour, or I am staring at a phone for several hours and not feeling tired at all. Because again, that blue light is preventing me from feeling the sort of drowsiness that I am supposed to be feeling when it comes to bedtime. When I'm reading a book, I'm not having that blue light filtering through, and I'm allowing myself to start to get more and more tired until it gets to the point where I can't keep my eyes open anymore and I just fall asleep. I fall asleep a lot faster when I read before bed as opposed to when I don't. So again, this will vary from person to person, but at least in my own anecdotal experience, I found it to be a lot easier to fall asleep by just reading a physical book before bed. Now, I do have one other recommendation for you, but before I get to that, I wanted to let you know that you can like, comment, and subscribe, all of which cost you nothing but make me happy. And so my last tip for making sure that reading before bed is successful is going to be making sure that you're using the right lights. Don't have bright LEDs shining down on you. Don't have your lights on at full blast across the house. Try to turn off all of the lights that you don't need, and then just have a bedside lamp if you are able to do so. I'm going to link one in the description if you have a hard time finding one. It has a warm light, it's dimmable, and it even has USB ports if you want to do something like charge your e-reader, despite my recommendation that you use a paper book. To each their own, maybe that works for you. And that's all that I really had to say on this matter. I hope that you enjoyed the post, maybe you took something away from it. Maybe this is the video that's going to get you to finally put your phone away instead of scrolling through TikTok for 4 hours before trying and failing to fall asleep, and then realizing that the sounds you're hearing are not coming from your phone, but they're coming from outside as the birds are chirping and the roosters are crowing, telling you that the day has started and you missed your opportunity to sleep. Welcome to my life. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out this video. I really appreciate it. If you'd like to see another video from me, you can do so by clicking up here. And until next time, bye.